with an estimated casualty of 70 to 80 million deaths and an unimaginable collateral damage to several countries. World War II was perhaps the most lethal and morbid historical event that has ever happened. With this in mind, just the mere thought that there could be a World War III is what nightmares are made of. Welcome to the End of the World channel. For today's video, we will be talking about recent global events and whether they could be the reason as to why there might be a world war brewing again. Could history possibly repeat itself again because of rising tensions and cold wars? The tension between China and Taiwan has both countries walking on thin ice. The ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine has people on the edge of their seats. Alliances were either questioned or strengthened, while several countries have been going through a severe economic crisis. Could they even afford to participate in another large-scale war? Let's find out together and take a deep dive as to how these events may or may not lead to another dreaded world war. Are you up to date with the worldwide conflicts that are starting to spark the idea of a World War III? Do you think this is an understatement and these events aren't going to cause another large-scale war? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Russia's invasion of Ukraine started on February 24, 2022. 9 months later, and the two countries are still at a long-lasting standoff that has been draining both countries of their resources and manpower. Russia does not shy away from standing firm and establishing that they're some sort of invincible modern empire by letting the other countries know that no one could bully them. But why would they start a war with Ukraine of all countries? Going against China would have been the more predictable move. But no one expected that they would go head-to-head against their neighboring country. To know why all of this is happening, why don't we trace it back to the very start? Because Europe is broad and included a lot of countries, it was inevitable for the continent to develop different military alliances that were corresponding to the ideologies of the countries. The countries were either running through democracies or under a communist government. Consequently, this has created different alliances, such as the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and the Warsaw Pact Alliance. Western European countries joined NATO, and the countries that associated themselves with the USSR would then join the Warsaw Pact Alliance. Recently, countries have been joining NATO, which gave implications of a weaker Russia. Russia has been known to not take threats lightly, and so when Ukraine kept on insisting on their stance to finally join NATO, this year has been the last straw that urged Russia to invade Ukraine. Although it is clear that the Ukraine attempting to join NATO has threatened Russia to strike and invade its neighboring country, Vladimir Putin guises it as a way to demilitarize and set Ukraine to its righteous path, away from being a nest of neo-Nazi citizens. Volodymyr Zelensky has denied Putin's statement and said that they were baseless and were meant to put a bad light on Ukraine to lose its sympathies from other countries. Ever since Russia has decided to invade Ukraine, there has been countless casualties and a massive count of civilians killed after simultaneous bombing and attacks. Ukraine has been conducting a counteroffensive on Russia in cities that they have set camp in order to throw off the latter country. Despite Ukraine's efforts, however, their future remains dim and vague. There is no seeing the end of the tunnel as of yet with the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. That was definitely a lot of information to digest. Take a quick breather for a second before we dive into a lot more issues that have been building up to a suspected World War III. And while you're doing that, just a quick reminder to hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell to keep you posted on recent news like this. On the other hand, China and Taiwan situation could be likened to the Russian-Ukraine war, because Taiwan is under the one China policy where they could only assume autonomy if they agree to be under the rule of Beijing. This policy has been the cause of the tension between the two countries as Tsai Ing-wen assumes office. She has made it clear that Taiwan is a country of its own, and in return, China has snubbed her winning of the elections and continues to claim that Taiwan belongs to China. This constant back and forth could be likened to the war between Ukraine and Russia. Taiwan and China have been having a long-standing power struggle with each other, and who knows what might actually finally push China China to go on the offensive and do what Russia did to Ukraine. America has not been helping to alleviate the situation between Taiwan and China, as Joe Biden has made statements about backing up Taiwan if ever China moves to establish the One China policy via a military move. If the tension between these countries continue and extend to a full-blown war, this might give America an opening to yet again strengthen their alliances. This is admittedly how the Second World War started. Tensions that were boiling and eventually spilled over pushed countries to team up and build alliances to protect themselves from the other party. Threats of a World War III happening had eased up when the United Nations was formed. Its sole purpose was to condemn all aggressions of war. But if the United Nations fails to fulfill its purpose and the world goes through a third world war, what could possibly happen in the future? Recently, Poland has been caught in the crossfire in the war between Russia and Ukraine. An explosion has been reported in Poland near its border with Ukraine. This has not caused Poland to be hostile as of yet, but they are readying their troops if Russia continues to involve them with the conflict with Ukraine. Because Poland is part of NATO, they might invoke the other countries to join military forces against Russia. Hence, the fear of a third world war is somehow justifiable. The Second World War has made civilians vulnerable to human rights violations, sexual assault, genocide, famine, and other worst things imaginable. War does not end with the waving of a white flag. These countries will always remember that they distrusted and brutalized each other before, so there will still be post-war tensions that would follow. The Second World War also inflicted civil wars in the countries involved, since political stances could be radicalized and emphasized in a time of war, creating an internal tension between fellow countrymen. Although these have been the effects that the Second World War inflicted, they are not far from what could happen to the world if a World War III ever occurs. The famine and destruction that followed the Second World War could be the reality of the world as well, if there will be another war that's just as damaging. A research that surveyed 17,000 people has concluded that the respondents were taking these border issues seriously and have been worrying over a World War III happening. Although the conflicts between these countries may as well lead to another world war, take this video with a grain of salt. The world has learned ever since World War II happened and have taken extra precautions for it not to happen again. Countries are not afraid to step up against imperialist countries and will utilize the treaties that they have conducted in order for another world war not to blow over. While we could only sympathize with the countries that are being invaded right now because of their autonomy being compromised, they are not big enough of a threat to imply a global conflict. This may seem like an out-of-touch statement, and if taken wrongly, could even sound entitled. But it is necessary to assure yourself that the world is bigger than what is enclosed in your TV screen. There are too many moving parts to worry yourself over a world war that is not even a concrete idea as of yet. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell to stay updated with the latest news or documentaries on the End of the World channel. Thank you.